To protect the climate, we're changing in ways that might surprise you. We've turned to the most experienced fluid dynamics experts in the world to make airplanes more efficient. We're planning a heat pump the size of a soccer field to reduce our own emissions. Blazing a trail with recycling technology to breathe new life into old electric vehicle batteries. And to power our own factories. We're building an offshore wind farm, the biggest in the world. To protect the climate, we're changing, getting inspiration from all kinds of places and all kinds of people.
Hello, and welcome to our Sustainable by Design event series. This is our afternoon session on a sustainable coffee program brought to you live by our colleagues in Mexico City. My name is Ben Glavatsky. I'm the Sustainable Business Strategy Manager at BASF and your host for these sessions. First of all, thank you for your time in participating today, and if you've had a chance to tune in to any of our other sessions last week. Sustainable by Design is an event series that we are hosting during this month of April to bring sustainability awareness to the forefront. We want sustainability to be at the design phase of whatever product or service is brought to market. So let's design with the end in mind. Just before we get started, a few housekeeping items for our webinar today. On the right-hand side, there is a speaker section. It has the names and pictures of our speakers today, so be sure to check that out. We also have a section on any additional items that might be available, downloadable items, links to internet pages. So please take a look at that as well for relevant information. We also have a section on questions, so we very much welcome your questions. If you have questions, please put them in, and we will try to answer as many as we can during the session. If we can't get to your question, then we'll answer it afterwards. One final point, we do have a survey. We very much welcome your feedback. On the bottom of your screen, you'll see several icons. The one on the far right has the survey. Very short, very brief survey, but we very much welcome your input there. So leave us some feedback. Put a question in there if it didn't get asked or if it's very pertinent, or if you want information on something that you may have heard from BASF. So that's your way of reaching out to us. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our colleagues in Mexico City. Enjoy the webinar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning or good afternoon, depends where you are joining us today. My name is Andres Monroy. I'm the president of BASF for Mexico, Central America, and Caribbean. And I'm very happy to be opening this event. We will be speaking about sustainable coffee, a sustainable coffee initiative called KAJVE that we're implementing in Mexico and in Guatemala. The word KAJVE comes from a language that is called Tzotzil. Tzotzil is a language that is spoken in the southern part of Mexico, in the region of Chiapas as well, where we're implementing KAJVE. And this language has pretty nice, significant heritage, just like the communities that are growing the coffee in Chiapas. They're following very nice traditions. We're going to speak about it later today. Coffee is a traditional crop in Mexico. And Chiapas, the place where we're implementing KAJVE, is one of the key producers in the country. And everybody or anybody that really likes coffee knows that the coffee from Chiapas is very well known worldwide for its excellent quality. Something different with this project is we're working in a close collaboration with United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. That's better known as UNESCO. So this is a very nice part that we're doing between BASF and UNESCO. And this has allowed us really to carry out a cultural analysis of the cultural diversity of everything that has to do with the local knowledge and practices of really having coffee, and it's contributing to foster the smallholder sustainable development. At KAJVE, we have been able to identify the social, cultural, economic, and environmental dimension of coffee production in communities, incorporating innovation and technology to face climate and environmental change. We're really proud of KAJVE. This initiative is showing that it is possible to work together with communities, international organizations, and private sector. And we're all together paving the road to overcome our current and future challenges, consolidating sustainable solutions for the world. So if we ask ourselves what's behind a cup of coffee, I'm going to leave you here with a very nice video so we can learn a little bit more about what's behind a cup of coffee and KAJVE. Thank you very much.
Cada taza de café tiene una historia que contarte. Acerca del esfuerzo y la dedicación en su aroma. Acerca de la constancia y el compromiso con la naturaleza en su consistencia. Acerca del trabajo en equipo y el bienestar colectivo en su sabor. Porque queremos compartir y celebrar lo que hay detrás de cada sorbo de café, unimos fuerzas para hacer un reconocimiento a quienes sostienen la vida con su conocimiento tradicional a través de su labor en la agricultura, de su interacción y cuidado de los ecosistemas con buenas prácticas agrícolas en su cultivo, a quienes como tú aman el café y ven por el futuro de sus familias y por el florecimiento de sus comunidades.
La función de BASF es dar acompañamiento a los agricultores, demostrando que con el uso de ciertas tecnologías podemos contribuir a mejorar la productividad de las parcelas de café y también a aumentar la calidad, ¿no? También a mantener una productividad durante el tiempo de manera sostenible.
El café también se cuida, también como los niños. Hay que cuidarlo bien y para sacar la cosecha y para sacar calidad hay que trabajarlo. De que la calidad no sale a sí mismo solo.
Les deseo a los granos, a los cafés, lo que vamos a mandar nosotros como de café marsellesa. Espero que sea reconocido y sea aprobado, que le desean buen provecho a los consumidores nacionales. Entonces, es mi intención hacerlo.
Es una bendición trabajar la madre tierra porque me ayuda a dar pues, los alimentos y todo eso, lo que produce la tierra. Empecé a trabajar porque mi papá tiene las experiencias en el manejo del café y eso es lo que me gustó más.
Pues como ustedes verán acá nosotros producimos el café y pues lo hacemos muy armoniosamente en familia. Es de gran orgullo ser un productor de café porque a través de este grano tan aromático y tan precioso para nosotros es el sustento de mi familia, es el bienestar de mis hijos.
Hablo con mis hijos y le decimos, si nosotros estamos trabajando, queremos que ustedes vean el trabajo que se hace y el esfuerzo que se pone, el empeño y el resultado. Si hay resultado, queda ganas de trabajar.
Acompañamos a las comunidades de cafeticultores y cafeticultoras en sus esfuerzos por reconocer, preservar y difundir la riqueza de su patrimonio cultural, inmaterial y biocultural. Conocemos el enorme valor de sus prácticas culturales, saberes tradicionales y técnicas alrededor del cafeticultivo. Y celebramos que no haya una sola forma de cultivar y amar el café, sino muchas, diversas, complejas, propias de las comunidades que dotan de vida a este preciado cultivo.
Hay dos cosas bastante importantes en el programa. Una es que el agregarse al proyecto o sumarse al proyecto es completamente gratuito. No se compromete el agricultor como tal a nada con nosotros. Y otra es que la participación de UNESCO con nosotros, la guía que ellos nos dan, porque nos ayudan a entender de forma cultural las comunidades, ¿no? Y al intervenir con ellas, va a impactar en ese enfoque, ¿no?
La UNESCO, bajo el mandato del Sistema de Naciones Unidas, pues tenemos nuestra Agenda 2030 y uno de los principales o de los más importantes objetivos de desarrollo sostenible es la alianza y la cooperación estratégica con contrapartes. Esta colaboración que hemos tenido con BASF como una empresa privada, pues es importante para la suma de esfuerzos, porque para lograr todos estos objetivos encaminados al desarrollo sostenible de las naciones y a nivel local, es importante que puedan sumarse gobiernos, que puedan sumarse la sociedad civil, por supuesto, las comunidades, y en este caso la participación de instituciones o de empresas privadas es muy importante. Este proyecto de KAJVE pues contribuye también a la sostenibilidad de las comunidades.
Y justamente la raíz de lo que a nosotros nos interesaba con BASF es que se considere importante no solo el desarrollo económico de las comunidades, sino que también se considere como parte de ese desarrollo la protección de todo este patrimonio y de todos estos conocimientos y de todas estas tradiciones que hay alrededor del café.
El ser cafeticultor, el ser productor de café, no solo es sembrar café, sino que también involucra pues, tus emociones, tus sentimientos y toda la parte que es como más cuestiones afectivas. Es como un momento de acercamiento familiar con la naturaleza. Los niños ahí también van aprendiendo y ahí se podría decir que pues, hay una transferencia generacional de conocimientos.
Tocamos a la puerta de pequeños productores y productoras de café, generosos, apasionados por lo que hacen, para compartir las soluciones sustentables para el campo y nuestro amor por el proyecto. Hemos obtenido grandes resultados y continuaremos apoyando a los caficultores para que el café siga siendo su sustento. Seguiremos adelante porque nos mueve la fuerza de la gente y sus saberes generacionales enraizados en la tradición. Nos mueve la calidez de las comunidades, volcadas en cuerpo y alma al cultivo del café, y nos mueven nuestro amor por la naturaleza y el compromiso por la preservación del medio ambiente. Soñamos con regiones cafetaleras productivas que sean soporte del desarrollo comunitario y del comercio justo, un ejemplo de agricultura responsable y sustentable. Nos mueve contarte esta historia.
Okay, so I would like to begin the panel by introducing our friends and allies in this KAJVE initiative. So let's begin with Manuel Cortés. He is our Manager of Regulatory Affairs and Product Custody at BASF Agricultural Solutions. Manuel is an agriculture and engineering, and he has forged a very nice career through more than 40 years. So welcome, Manuel. Thank you for being with us. We continue with Carlos Tejada. He's from UNESCO. He oversees the cultural sector at UNESCO Mexico. And as well, Carlos develops cultural initiatives, particularly in areas such as cultural diversity, cultural rights, as well as the fields of innovation and the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So, Carlos, thank you for being with us. A key fundamental part of KAJVE and the success we've had is the training that we did with all the people regarding coffee growing as well as marketing. Yeah? And here is where Eleazar Oliva comes in with incredible 26 years of experience. I would say, Eleazar, you are one of the most respected and knowledgeable persons in Mexico regarding coffee. Eleazar has worked for important companies as Starbucks, Nestlé, Cargill, Dreyfus, and AMSA, among others. So thank you very much. And finally, a very special guest, Domingo Gomez, coming directly from the community La Merced in the municipality of Chenalho. And he has been one of the key growers of the KAJVE initiative in Chiapas. Entonces, bienvenido, señor Domingo. Muchas gracias de estar con nosotros. So let's begin with a question for Manuel. Manuel, the agro-solutions business started defining sustainability targets already many years ago. And we have promoted agricultural practices that are increasingly sustainable. From your point of view, Where does KAJVE match with your business sustainability targets? And how is KAJVE contributing to mitigate the impact of climate change in aspects as water, soil, and weather, just to mention a few?
Sure. Thank you, Andres. First of all, it's important to mention that in the AP business, the agricultural solution business that we have in BASF, so we have a strategy. And at the center of the strategy, we place the farmer. For us, it's the most important thing, the strategy, and we work for the farmers. On the other hand, we are very proud to have a slogan, farming is the biggest job on the earth. Agricultura es el trabajo más valioso de la tierra. Y eso es muy importante porque la estrategia.
This is quite important.
It's important to mention that the strategy, the farmer and the farming, so is how we are working every day with passion in the AP business. So agriculture is getting more complex, important, and challenging environment that we are living all the days. We are committed to find the right balance between production and also to respect the environment and also to help to the growers to increase yield and quality of the crops that they are growing. So talking about sustainability, the big challenge that we have in one hand is to ensure food security. How? By increasing the yield for each hectare that we are growing. But at the same time, we have limited resources. We have just only one world, we just only one land for agricultural purposes. There is no more land to increase this area. And also we have less water. With less water, and also we have drought conditions in some regions of the world where we have to face with those challenges. And that's the reason why we need innovation. Innovation is very important for the business because when you try to find this balance, so the only way to increase productivity by each hectare grown is through the innovation. So the innovation is fundamental in all areas for agricultural purposes. So talking about crop protection products, biotechnology, digital solutions, and so on. So just to mention one important information regarding the investment that BASF is doing in research and development for the AP business. We invest every day 3 million euros. It means also 1 billion investment per year in the research and development activities. For what? Because we want to bring innovation. We want to bring new tools to the farmers in order to increase this productivity. So now talking about KAJVE. So KAJVE is a good example how agricultural practices can change the way how to produce and increase the yield and also the quality with the coffee farmers. So it's a greater example about efficiency and also to offer opportunities to the farmers to have a better quality of life. In BASF, we have to find this balance between growing population. So the population is growing, we have to feed the population, and the only way to do it is by increasing and improving quality of the crops. Talking about coffee and KAJVE, it's important to mention and to understand that coffee is not a crop, it's a system of production. It's an agroforestry concept or system where there is a relationship between natural conditions, and also the crop, the production. And we have to understand that because it's very important to keep humidity, to keep the native vegetations in order to ensure just the quality and the production of the coffee. So how KAJVE contributes to climate change mitigation? So at the very beginning, so first of all, we are maintaining the production area with native vegetation. For what? Because we need the trees, and also we need the bushes in order to keep the optimal shadow and also the humidity. This humidity, it's just inside the soil, just to provide all the nutrients, humidity needed, and also the flavor for the coffee. It's very important. And also, we are keeping this moisture, and also we are reducing the emissions of CO2 gases for footprint. Uh, on the other hand, talking about to take care about the environment, so we promote or we avoid, in this case, to indiscriminate logging. So deforestation is important in those areas, so we avoid that. We explain to them. So we provide knowledge how they have to keep the trees and the bushes just to keep this moisture needed for the coffee production. On the other hand, also it's important to mention that this KAJVE initiative is connected with another initiative that we have in Mexico called Alas para el Campo. Alas para el Campo is an initiative to protect and to preserve the habitat for the butterfly, monarch butterfly, and also another pollinators. It is very important, the connection that we have in the coffee, because coffee extremely depends from pollinators, in this case for bees. So if we don't have enough bees to ensure a good pollination, we don't have enough production and quality of the coffee. So the connection that we have with this initiative and this biodiversity initiative called Alas para el Campo is very important. So we established in the communities around 60 shelters where we promote the development of some species needed for the coffee, needed for the bees, and also to ensure this moisture needed for the coffee. And also we established 2 pollinator gardens in the communities, and we have different, let's say, plans to expand these kind of initiatives with the communities and also with the coffee partners that we have with KAJVE. This in general, just a few results that we have, or things related with climate change mitigation.
Excellent, Manuel. Thank you very much. Carlos, now more than ever, it's very important this collaboration between private sector and other sectors as social, government. For you, UNESCO, what was the added value that you saw in KAJVE to take part of this initiative, and why it is important for UNESCO to collaborate with private sector?
Well, for UNESCO, this collaboration was quite innovative. And it was also very important. Well, first of all, I think that it's important to remember that for the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations, that's an agenda agreed by all the members that are part of the UN. They all agreed and they shared goals in order to reach a fair and more sustainable world. So that agenda has 17 goals. And one of those goals, the last goal, goal 17, is maybe one of the most important goals because it, in order to get a development, a sustainable development, we require collaboration of all stakeholders. So we need not just the collaboration of governments, we also need the collaboration of people, of civil society, of academia, and very important is the participation of the private sector as well. And actually each goal has different goals, and one of the goals of SDG 17 is to be able to have partnerships, long-lasting and meaningful partnerships, and to have this win-win relationship, so to speak, between the government but also with the private sector. So this project was a way for Mexico, UNESCO, to work on this goal of this SDG goal. And then on the other hand, the added value of this collaboration, well, to us, it was very important that when we talk about sustainability and the root of these SDGs is affirming that development has to be balanced in every single dimension. So we have identified 3 dimensions: economic growth, social growth, and the environment protection. So we need to have a balance between these three dimensions. So this project was very important to us as well because it helps us to show this need where work is not just done for adding production. It's very important to increase production, but that it's not just done for the sustainable use of biodiversity and the protection of the environment. That's of course very important, but that it also involves social components and cultural components. We should not forget that, well, in the end, agriculture, coffee, agriculture, uh, have this word agriculture, culture. And as Manuel said this earlier, coffee culture is a system. It's not just a productive activity, it's a system. And an important part of the system has to do with all the cultural elements behind it. Juan Lopez said this earlier, our consultant in this video. For communities, for coffee growers, the same activity is an element of their heritage. It's part of their heritage. It's valuable because it connects them. It is a blessing, they said, it is a blessing to work with Mother Earth. So it connects them to nature, it connects them to their origins, it connects them to their ancestors, with the connection to their communities, with the legacy that they have from one generation to the other. So being able to work on that in the production, in the coffee production, to us was very, very important. And to be very clear about this, this type of projects are very important to us because, well, this happens at UNESCO and in the UN. Well, they have different frameworks, and we have different conventions, and we have different guiding tools and reflection tools. But it's through these type of projects that we move from this idea of all the frameworks to the execution in reality. So yeah, that has been very valuable to us. Thanks so much.
Seth, I would like to acknowledge and thank you and UNESCO for the great work and collaboration on this initiative. No, really to try to preserve the culture and tradition of communities, as you were saying, is not the first thing that one thinks always to do. So it was really great. And something that is also very interesting is that we know it's a challenge, this collaboration between the public and private sector, but KAJVE is a clear example that it can be accomplished. Yeah, so thank you once again. Eleazar.
So we were speaking about the importance of the training that you had for some months already, for some years actually. So to you as an expert in training coffee growers, what was the most important challenge that you faced in order to improve all these processes, in order to improve productivity? Well, thanks. First of all, thanks very much for this invitation to BASF. To me, I'm really very glad to be here, sharing all these experiences that we've had in this project. That I don't call it a project; it's an initiative already, because it's something real, it's actual. You can touch it; it's tangible, and yeah, like adding to the words of Carlos, it's the culture of producers. They have a deep-rooted culture that's very difficult to convince them of the small changes that we have to do. And then sometimes as agronomists, we just go there, and to us it's very easy to say, hey, you have to cut these plants over here. But no, wait, these plants are my children, they say. Even when they're not producing anything, they want to have those plants there because those plants are like children to them. So the biggest challenge to them is how to convince producers and low-scale producers of all these changes that they have to do in their production systems. It's very difficult for a producer to receive agronomists and to receive consultancy firms and to have different government institutions, and we are all there with different recipes. We have this for the same problem. We have different solutions. We have different recipes, and that happened to me several times already. When they told me, "Hey, engineer, but hey, now you come here and you're telling me that we have to do this, but some other guys came and they told us we had to do something different, and then other guys told us different things. So who shall we be listening to of all of them? How can we convince them?" So what we did was to start working shoulder and shoulder with producers. It's not about convincing them, it's about them seeing it by themselves. So we have to start educating. Actually, we came up with a word so that we would not say these sample parcels, we call them educational parcels. We have to educate producers on these different changes, on these different ways of producing, because for sure, well, we had this point of inflection that was very important, and we've been speaking about this. When you go to producers and then they ask you, "Hey, but do we have medication?" I mean, that is a point. I mean, that is a point or the level we have in the coffee plantation. So we have to work. We have to be there with producers. They have to see us, and they have to see the results, that they believe in the results that they see, that they believe in themselves, and that they can know all the different ways of working. So the main challenge has been that, to make producers believe that there are different ways of producing that can be for them better than how they're currently doing. Great, thanks very much, Eleazar. So Domingo was one of the persons that believed in KAJVE since the beginning. So Domingo, tell us a little bit where the Chenaló community is located. Tell us more about Chenaló. Tell us about the main source of income for people in Chenaló. Well, first of all, nice meeting you all. My name is Domingo Gomez Santis. I come from a small area that's called La Merced. La Merced used to be a farm in the past, but we were not able to rescue lots of things on this plot. It's 208 hectares for 20 producers. So almost all of us there are producers. It's 1,350 meters high at the sea level, and we grow coffee plants. That's what we're doing in Chiapas, in the region of Los Altos de Chiapas, and in this area, La Merced. That's where we work as producers. I'm a producer. I've been doing these for almost 20 years, but there are things that we do not know how to do. We don't know where our crops go. So before, many years ago, we just thought we were working for nothing, that we're just working with because of dedication, and the effort is coffee. That's the most important. For my family, the most important thing is coffee. So, and thank God that I did not leave to go to other communities to get a job. I was 3 years out, but that's when I understood more about coffee. I love working on the field, on my plot, because that's what I do. That's where I dedicate all my efforts, because I know that there's no other exit. But it's working okay. In the past, we had a very bad crisis 10 years ago when we had La Roya and this disease, this crop disease, and producers lost like 80% of their production with this crop disease. So that happened in the past. So now what I'm doing, I cannot leave this work because there's no other way out. I have to work 100% on what I'm doing. But now, thanks to all this work, thanks to all the institutions that came to this area, to Starbucks, to PAS and UNESCO. These are the three institutions that have supported us a lot as of now. Now we can see the change. We are now seeing the change. And why do we see this change? Because for us as producers, we have to be in charge of that. We are what we work. We are what we grow. We are what we grow in our lands. And we know how to work with our crops. So things have changed on that regard. And I really like these three institutions that have helped us because our crops are 95% of yields. And Mr. Domingo, it would be really very interesting. Why don't you tell us about the results that you've had? You have 3 hectares there. And just with one of them, you have already implemented the good agricultural practices in this hectare. So why don't you share with us the productivity that you've had, the improvement in productivity in yields? Well, since we changed our agricultural techniques, before we did not grow crops like that, 1.5 per plant. And, well, of course, before we didn't do it like that. We worked 2.5 plant per plant, and we can just have 2,500 plants per hectare. And we had no yields. There's no volume for that. So for this reason, we had to change. And now, as of now, we have 3,360 plants per hectare. That's what we're having in each of our hectares. And the Marseillaise changed. Now we have a different one. And we are also working with the Marseillaise variety. That has a great volume. Almost 80%. And we are increasing La Marsellesa variety. Because when I work there, half an hectare of Marsellesa, and then what you get this year, year 23, well, I was able to get this half hectare. So for 1,664 plants. And for those 2 hectares, what I have, it's just two bulk. So that's the big difference that we have. The big difference, what what we've seen with these practices, it's all the knowledge that we've had with these companies, BASF, UNESCO, and Starbucks as well. It opened up the doors for trading our crops. And this is the only path, because 20 years ago, we've struggled as coffee producers there. And for us as small producers, we are not enough. And we could not trade it. Nobody took us into account. But now, thanks to these efforts, we have been working in this project for 3 years already, and we're doing great. We're going on that path, and I'm very thankful for this. And these practices and everything that we are doing here with you. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, because we are now with producers, working with producers, and I'm very thankful for that. Thanks so much.
Of the impact of this initiative. But I know there are more than 1,300 agricultures that have been following the KAJVE initiative. So can you tell me a little bit more of, is there other communities, other growers that have benefited, as Domingo has told us, with KAJVE?
Sure, I will do it. So as you can see in this slide, we show where we started the initiative of KAJVE. So KAJVE initiated in the southern part of Mexico, in the state called Chiapas, and we focus in 3 different communities. So we have La Merced, from where Mr. Domingo is originary. Then we have Grecia, and also we have Jaltenango. In these 3 communities, we impacted to 87 coffee farmers. Then we expand the initiatives to another, let's say, 30 communities in Mexico, in the same state, Chiapas, but also we cover Oaxaca, Puebla, and Veracruz. But also, we went and replicate the same initiative in the country of Guatemala, with, as you already mentioned, 1,300 coffee farmers impacted with the initiative in total at the end of the 2022. So what we did, according with the results that we achieved, the first thing that we did, in this case, was to recognize all the effort and the good work coffee farmers do in their lands, in the farmers. The second one is to help them to develop entrepreneurial skills in order to have a better crop management and to understand exactly administrative tasks that they have to do it. Once we recognize all the effort and the work from the coffee farmers, so we implement just the use of crop protection products and also good agricultural practices. This is very important to mention that. So all the products that we are recommending are, let's say, accepted for local authorities with the register of use of the products to control, in this case, rust. In this case, in Spanish, is roya in café. So then, here the results, you can see, we increased the yield around 35%, increased yield in general, but we have in some cases when we increase up to 50% yield. So yield is important, but also quality is another important factor to keep about it, to keep in mind. So when we are talking about the yield and you increase in number of, let's say, bags or quintals, so 1 quintal or 1 bag means around 58 to 60 kilos. So when you increase the 30%, you are talking about 20 kilos more for each bag. And when you take in consideration the yields that Mr. Domingo already reached, it's a lot of money of difference. Trust me, guys. So quality is another, let's say, thing that we have to take about it. So you have the yield, but also you have to ensure the quality of the coffee, because quality in the market is well accepted, and also you have an overprice about the quality. So in the world of coffee, they grade the coffee in general in cup quality points. So to have let's say, an excellent coffee for cup quality points, you have to reach at least 80 points. In those cases that we have in those communities, we exceed the 80 points, and we increase, in this list you can see the results, so we increase from 82.5 average up to 84 points. So it means we are over the standard, and it means also a better price. In general, we reach around, they gave with this quality and also increased yield, $4 for each bag for the average price in the market. So it's very important to mention that, okay? And when you have a better yield and you have a better quality, you have a better, let's say, income for the family in general at the end of the season. This is just a few results that we have with the KAJVE initiative in Mexico and Guatemala.
Okay, thank you very much. We're running short of time, so we're going to have to do this a little bit more fast. Carlos, for you as UNESCO, the respect for the biocultural heritage and the traditions is essential. So from your perspective, how does KAJVE is contributing to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and what has been the analysis you have made of the social cultural dimension on growing coffee?
Las dimensiones para sembrar café. Well, the project responds to different sustainable development goals. On the one hand, the sustainable development goal number 1 that's connected to eliminating poverty. Of course, since we have this coffee production can increase quality of life, and this can lead to better economic yields. And this, of course, responds to SDG 1. Then it also responds to SDG number 2, that's connected to stopping hunger and everything connected to agriculture and agricultural practices as well. And it has to do with SDG 5, that's also connected with gender equality, with empowerment of women, with participation of women, and it's also connected to SDG 8, that's connected to economic growth and decent jobs. It has to do a lot with SDG 11, that even when it's connected to cities, well, one of the goals of that SDG is to regulate the efforts in order to protect cultural and natural heritage. So I could continue listing all the SDGs, but well, honestly, this is a multifaceted project that approaches different SDGs. And when it comes to the findings, I'll quickly explain them. We've identified several findings in different areas. First of all, traditions and oral expression. We have different stories, storytelling, and stories told around coffee that the community shares around coffee. Stories connected to how coffee arrived, on how they moved to Soconusco region. They used to be farmers, and then they took the plants, and then in their own communities they started growing these plants on their own, and they started experimenting. So around all that, there are different stories that are also very important because they are connected to the story of communities themselves. And then we have language. This project adopts the word in the Tzotzil language. KAJVE is in Tzotzil language, so language is very important as well for this project. For instance, in Greece and in New Argentina, there are main communities, and they've lost their language, but they're very interested in recovering their language, and it's the other way around. Like workers, agricultural workers that come from Guatemala, they do speak this language, and then this can lead to a very interesting language exchange. And then knowledge and use of nature, diversification of coffee growers, all the knowledge around that. And all this has to do with not just a strategy of being able to do different things throughout the year, but also an idea of having harmony with earth, that there has to be a balance there. And then the last one, the one of social ritual uses and festivities. In communities, there's usually a party when the production season finishes. And a very interesting thing that we've identified is that women in the communities get together to toast their own coffee and to drink their own coffee. That is social use that has been unnoticed for quite a long time, and that's really worthwhile bringing light to it, identify it, because women speak and then they agree on things, and this can be a very important element for empowering women. And last but not least, the visibility. Communities themselves identify women as a key part of the production chain of coffee. Usually, there's a stigma that the importance of women is because they just bring food to the plots, but it goes beyond that. It's not just bringing food. They are identified as specializing for sewing, for drying, for identifying seeds, and so forth. So that is also a key component that we have to bring light, how the participation of women goes beyond what we usually see in the coffee growing culture. Thanks so much, Carlos. Eleazar, in a minute, I know this will be very difficult, this is a big challenge to you because this is a quite interesting question. We know that in agriculture, there are different middlemen agents between the field till we get it in our tables. So I'd like you to share a bit of KAJVE. What has KAJVE done so that coffee growers take a better advantage of coffee crop production? 1 minute, I'll try to, well, we have four important variations. Number one, in order to get this credibility that I mentioned earlier, we have to have the producer looking at the money impact. So we work on the first point in organization, increasing the capability of negotiation of producers with the volumes that they can all get together and to take advantage of scale economies as well. Number two is we improve agricultural practices for increasing productivity and also to improve agricultural practices throughout the process of wet benefit, where we can also improve their quality and get more money for that improvement in the quality of their product. Then another point is to bring multinational companies to producers so that they would not sell their product locally with a local middleman, but that they sold it directly to an export company, a multinational company that has a direct contact with coffee toasters throughout the world. So we also bring the product closer, and there are higher profits for coffee producers. And the last front, we've been working on that, is in certification, sustainable certifications, where we're trying to fulfill all these three aspects of sustainability. That's social impact, environmental impact, and the economic impact as well. So with these certifications, we have toasters that are really interested in that specific product. So that's what KAJVE has done. So yeah, 1 minute and a half, but it was a great explanation. Mr. Domingo, one last question to you. So, well, Mr. Domingo shared with us the improvement in yields and productivity that they've had since he started working with KAJVE initiative. But what has been the hardest thing as a coffee producer to truly implement everything that you learned in these recent years with KAJVE? Well, the hardest thing that has happened to us is through prevention, the control of La Roya. That's the hardest thing that we've had, because before we did not have the personal protection equipment, and that's the hardest thing. And that's what we see, that our plants were just growing without a purpose. But thanks to BASF, they donated to us the equipment for working, not just controlling this plant disease, but also to control our work. And it's very nice because I've worked for this with our team for some years already. It's already 4 years. And we started working with BASF, and I've worked, and we have a change already. It's not just a change because we're producers, but also a change for the largest volume of what we are sowing in our plots. So now we see the change. But this is thanks to this team. And if it wasn't for this team, we would probably be as always. And one more question that I have, Mr. Domingo. We've spoken about your community. In your community, people that have actually seen the benefit of these best practices, of these best agricultural practices, they haven't yet taken the decision of starting implementing these best agricultural practices. Why is that happening? Well, yes, because we're 50 producers in the community, but we're just 10 producers working in this project. And why? Why they don't want to be with us? Or they don't want to copy our work? Because of the renewal. Because when we talk about renewal of plants, is that we have to get rid of all the old plants, but we're not used to doing that. And those plants can be 30 years old, right? Yes, I have plants that are 33 years old. This past year, I just cut them, but I already have experience. And this past year, I had to cut this tree. Well, there was no other way because I already have the experience. But I've been doing this for 33, and I've been working on this for 6 years, but my plant was 33. And that's not convenient for other producers. They like having their own plants. But, well, unfortunately, those plants do not work anymore. And as producers, well, we're now working on that. Perfect. Thanks so much. I think we have... Tenemos unas preguntas por aquí.
We have a couple of questions on the web. So the first one is from Ryan Blankenship. Which chemicals, insecticides, pesticides, fungicides are sprayed, and are they banned in other countries? The European Union, for example, what are the hazards of ingestion of these chemicals over time?
Manuel, I think this is yours.
Yes, I believe so. Okay, the products that we are recommended for to use in coffee, it's with all the registration for use to control, in this case, rust in the coffee. So, as I also already mentioned, BASF is working to develop, through the innovation, new crop protection products. In this case, we have the replacements for the current ones. So we are renovating our portfolio in order to ensure that we have new tools. When you have new tools, you can replace the old chemistry in order to ensure two things. To be safe for the people who is spraying, and also that we are drinking or eating those crops, and also safe and to protect the environment. So we are working on it, and that's the investment that you already mentioned, and all the products that we have here in Mexico, it's with a label approved for the authorities.
Thank you. There's another question here.
Hola, buenos días. Esta es una pregunta para el señor Domingo.
This is a question for Mr. Domingo. Thanks so much for being here. And the question is, what are the main challenges that you face in your community, in La Mercedla community? And how has KAJVE program helped you improve these? Well, coffee production has helped us a lot because we don't have other work options. We just have coffee as an option. That is what we've been doing for many years since our grandparents and our great-grandparents. So we've been working with coffee since then. Muchas gracias.
There's another question over here in the web. Are there any cons with the yield increase? Does more yield mean more water use, for example?
Another one for me. It's, let's say, very technical. Okay. The relation between yield, it's a connection with, it's not exactly a concern, but as already mentioned, Domingo, in order to have a good yield, you have to control the rust, because otherwise, if you don't control it, you are going to lose a lot of leaves, and you don't have enough leaves, you don't have enough photosynthesis to have a good quality of grains, flowering, and then the grains. So I think there is a connection between good agricultural practices to ensure a good yield, and also to have a good rust control or these kind of diseases that affect to the coffee. On the other hand, also there are some other, let's say, issues related with the yield, like fertilization, for example. So the assimilation of nutrients is very important. That's why we have to keep humidity. That's why we have to keep native vegetation, and also the shadow. So it's a crop system. It's a coffee crop system that we have to keep in mind, and not just only one, let's say, driver in this case.
There's one more question. As BASF co-worker, how can we join this movement? Who can we contact?
So you can contact us by email, right? So, if you can give us your email address, we will be back to you in order to, and we will be eager if you want to join the initiative. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're coming to the end of the panel. It was really a very interesting conversation. Thank you very much once again for joining us. I know there's still a lot of questions. You can contact us via social media. We'll try to get back to you. So once again, thanks everybody that follow us through this direct transmission. And señor Domingo, nuevamente muchas gracias por haber venido y compartir con nosotros su experiencia de primera mano. Okay, so have a great day. Thank you very much.